the 2-year, $1,000 journey that started long before the animal was ever sold. Beef is by far the most expensive common meat to produce, and the reasons say a lot about how farming actually works. So where does all that money and time really go? Start with the animal itself. A beef cow is enormous and it is slow. It takes roughly 1.5 to 2 years to turn a newborn calf into a finished animal heavy enough for slaughter, usually around 1,400 pounds. During that entire time, the animal is doing one thing above all else: eating. Cattle are grazing animals with a 4-chambered stomach built to digest grass, but they are not efficient at converting that food into meat. It can take 6 to 10 pounds of feed to add a single pound of weight. Multiply that across a 1,400-pound animal growing over 2 years, and you begin to see the problem. Every pound of beef sitting in a store represents an enormous amount of grass, hay, and grain that had to be grown, harvested, and hauled first. For comparison, a chicken reaches slaughter weight in about 6 weeks on a tiny fraction of the feed. A cow takes 10 times as long and eats vastly more, which is the single biggest reason beef costs several times what chicken does. But the calf is only half the story, because before you can raise a beef animal, you first have to keep its mother. This is the cow-calf stage, and it is the hidden foundation of the whole system. A rancher keeps a herd of breeding cows whose only job is to produce 1 calf each every year. And here is the catch. That mother cow has to be fed and housed all year round, through winter and drought, whether or not she is currently nursing. In 2025, the average annual cost just to keep a single cow ran to around $1,000 or more before the calf is even sold. So the price of that calf has to cover not just its own costs, but a share of its mother's entire year. By far the biggest expense in all of this is feed. On a typical cow-calf operation, grazed and harvested feed can make up anywhere from 40 to 70% of the total annual cost of keeping a cow. Feed and hay alone often account for around 1/3 of everything, and feed prices swing wildly with weather, fuel, and grain markets. A single bad drought can burn up a pasture, force a rancher to buy expensive hay, and wipe out a year's profit in a few dry months. This is why so much of a cattle operation is really a grass and hay operation in disguise. The rancher isn't just raising cattle. They are growing, buying, and managing tons of feed to pour into those animals every single day. Here is the part most people never realize. One animal usually passes through several different owners on its way to becoming beef. First, the cow-calf rancher raises the calf until it is weaned, then sells it, often for well over $2,000 a head in a strong market. Next, that calf may go to a stalker or backgrounder, who grazes it on pasture to add more weight cheaply. Then it moves to a feedlot, where it spends its final months eating a rich, grain-heavy diet, mostly corn, to pack on weight quickly and build the fat marbling that gives beef its flavor. Each of these operations has its own costs, its own risks, and its own slim profit margin. By the time a finished steer is sold to a meat packer, it may be worth well over $2,000, and it has already made money for 2 or 3 separate businesses along the way. Most of these handoffs happen at livestock auctions, where animals are sold by live weight to the highest bidder, and the price can swing sharply from week to week based on feed costs and demand hundreds of miles away. On top of feed, there is a long list of other expenses stacked onto every animal. There is land, and lots of it, since a single cow and her calf can need several acres of pasture, and good grazing land is expensive to buy or rent. There is labor, veterinary care, vaccines, and the cost of breeding, whether through bulls or artificial insemination. There is fuel, fencing, water systems, and heavy equipment. And there is death loss because some calves simply do not survive, yet the cost of raising them still has to be absorbed. Then comes a brutal piece of math at the very end. A finished animal that weighs 1,400 pounds does not yield 1,400 pounds of steak. After processing, only around 40% of that live weight ends up as sellable meat. So all of those accumulated costs get concentrated into a much smaller amount of actual beef. And almost all of it is paid for up front, months or years before any money comes back. So ranchers often carry heavy loans and interest just to keep the operation running until the animals are finally sold. So with all these costs, slow timelines, and razor-thin margins, why does anyone raise beef at all? Part of the answer is that when cattle prices are high, as they were through 2025, the profits can be real and significant. Ranchers reported some of the strongest returns in years, with calves selling at record prices. But those good years tend to follow bad ones in a long boom and bust pattern known as the cattle cycle, where high prices tempt everyone to expand the herd. The market eventually floods with animals, and prices collapse again a few years later. But it is a genuinely risky business. Prices can crash, feed can spike, and a single bad winter can erase everything. Many ranchers also do it because it is a generational way of life, a way to make otherwise unfarmable grassland productive by turning grass, which humans can't eat, into protein that we can. That is really the deepest reason cattle exist in agriculture. They are a way to harvest vast landscapes of grass that could never grow crops. So the next time you look at the price of a steak, remember what is behind it. 2 years of growth, a mother cow fed through every season. Tons of grass and grain, several owners each taking their share, and a huge animal that yields far less meat than it weighs. Beef is expensive not because of greed, but because a cow is a slow, hungry, land-hungry machine for turning grass into meat. Subscribe for more of the hidden economics behind the food you eat.